My name is TK48. Yeah, my parents couldn't afford the more mainstream copyrighted names. I'm a senior advisor at McDonald Megacorp. And today, well, it's gonna be a
Holy
big day.
base. Yo,
Bro,
what the
McDonald's is
fuck?
based.
McDonald's Megacorp.
That is what McDonald's
I
needs
like
to look
that.
like, bro.
Yes.
I feel like the joke is supposed to be that like this is like all like almost like dystopian, but like it's actually like really fucking lit.
It's fucking
Yeah,
cool,
bro.
bro.
I don't see any
I'm not gonna lie.
problem. I don't see any problem with people putting turrets, or whatever, however you name it, and flying helicopters over their property to protect that property. All right, there's nothing wrong with that.
I want to do that. Yeah.
Those anti-air missiles.
In other news, another Disney facility was allegedly attacked by the Louis Vuitton Air Force. The conflict between the two companies has only gotten worse since Louis Vuitton accused Disney of violating the non-aggression principle when sound waves from Star Wars 16 entered Louis Vuitton property. Experts
Okay,
Wait,
that's a
no,
bunch of bullshit.
well, that wouldn't
Yeah.
be an aggression, really. So,
Okay,
well,
so you can't just go on and be like, this person's sound waves distorted my property, so therefore that's a violation of the non-aggression principle. It's like in real life, right? You can't just go to a court and just say, oh my God, this guy's music was too loud without any evidence and then like charge him with something. It's both that's not a charge, right?
and
Fundamentally,
yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say fundamentally there has to be some sort of measurable damage done to your property by the perpetrator that can be demonstrated, right? So for instance, if somebody comes up to me and punches me in the face and I get a black eye or something, I don't know. I could show the judge, be like, hey, this guy punched me in the face, look. And, there you go, you have a case. But sound waves, there's no way you could demonstrably show that that is aggressed on you or violated your property rights or destroyed any of your property.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I'll be fair. I'll take the. I wouldn't say it's the other side. I would just say that like noise complaints are a real thing, and they can be legitimate if it's like actually, like affecting you negatively. So, for example, if like a neighbor is like blasting and like their music, in their house, and like the neighbors can hear it, and like you recorded this, like you record evidence of it or something, like this can be used to like tell them to stop doing it, or to or they'll like owe you if they keep doing it. Like it could be like a misdemeanor charge or something. Like at the most, like they'll probably like pay you a fee or something for doing it so that they stop doing it. But it couldn't be anything ridiculous. It couldn't be anything like above a misdemeanor.
Yeah,
unless
there
they're
is
like crazy about it.
there is like room for easements when it comes to anarcho-capitalism. So for instance, if you move into an area where the people already play music really, really loud on the weekends, it's sort of something that they do, then you wouldn't have really anything to complain about. But if you have like an agreement between, let's say you live in like an HOA or something like that, and then the agreement is no music after 9 o'clock, and if you violate this rule, then you would owe us this amount of money. That could be a way in which you can sort of deal with that issue. But again, like music in itself is not a rights violation. Yes, especially if it's something that it's not really doing any damage to you. So that's kind of dumb.
Yeah. And the thing with like you said about the HOA, I guess that like that would also only really work like say, you're in some community and there is some private owner, only then could like the people who live there or say like the owner themselves be like, hey, you need to stop playing your music so loud or else we're gonna kick you out. And then also like because music like can or like sound like say if you're blasting some music so loud that it like fucking shatters a window, then you would have you would have an argument for property damage and that they did aggress an argument in favor of this idea that they did aggress upon you.
Also, if they could, these companies aren't just going to go to war with each other over something like this. Um, it's like it's just such a ridiculous hypothetical that, oh my God, Disney's music or Disney's movie was played so loud and it did it to property and it violated the NAP of Louis Vuitton. So now they're going to go to war and send men to kill each other over this aggression. Like that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I hope these guys are. I hope this is like a meta ironic like sort of thing where it's like these guys are, maybe these guys are Ancaps and they're trying to like get the most ridiculous arguments and try to do you know what I'm saying? Or I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
like they're parodizing it. Like this is definitely a parody. I think
Like
they're
parodizing the arguments against Ancap, right? Or
I think so. Well, like that's what it seems to be so far because nothing's bad faith yet. Like they're presenting like exaggerated arguments, which I think are meant to be funny. So I think that's what they're doing.
yeah. All right, let's
Maybe.
continue.
I would
Oh,
hope so.
yeah, me
Also,
too.
I was just one last
Alright.
thing. In reality, I think what you would see in like Ancapistan, instead of course, like companies going to war, there'd just be a bunch of legal battles, right? Like they'd just be taking each other to court all the time
Yeah. You
or
would only
whatever.
see people going to war with each other if they had literally no resorts left, right? But if there's like courts and arbitration, they're gonna take that route because it would be a lot less expensive than going to war. War is a really expensive venture to get into.
Nope.
Also say that
Right.
Disney's decision to replace their army with Venezuelan child soldiers last year because they cost less Bitcoin might be the
Okay, no, you can't
That's
just do that.
that's expensive.
I don't
That's
think
considering how much a Bitcoin's worth now, that's way too expensive.
Yeah, you're not going to just be able to force kids to fight in a war for you. That violates the non-aggression principle of those children because those children, obviously children, they can't make decisions like that because they're children. So, yeah.
Yeah, you can't have child soldiers.
No. You can't have child soldiers in Ancapistan, no.
Damn it.
Damn.
for their repeated defeats on the battlefield.
Mr. TK-48, the council is waiting for you.
Mexicans I will underpay with Rose's day was true, the way would all be.
Hell yeah.
All right, so you're probably
That looks like
wondering why
communist
would this guy
propaganda.
have a plan to expand the company when all land is privately owned and all monopolies already taken. Well,
All right, so
No.
monopolies are not going to be a very big thing in a free market, and the reason why that is because when you don't have the state, the only time whenever you have a monopoly is whenever there's a state. The reason why is because they put in they have the ability to force out competitors and make it harder for people to compete with the larger corporations. So that's why whenever you see like these monopolistic businesses, they're mostly in sectors where it's extremely regulated
Or
and has a
subsidized.
bunch of licensing, heavily subsidized, right, by the state. Those are the industries where you see very few companies and not that much competition. Whenever you see it being underregulated, whenever you see sectors of the economy where people are allowed to sort of compete with each other, you see an abundance of those things, right? Like, food. We have such an abundance of food in the United States because pretty much anyone can create and make food, even though they have regulations and licenses. It's not as stringent as, say, something like the medical industry, where there's tons of monopolies, right? So yeah, we would be against intellectual property right laws. We would be against regulations. We would be against zoning laws, and we would be for private property rights and land ownership and things like that, and private property over the means of production. When you have those things, you're not going to expect companies to grow very large at all. The reason why that is because as soon as one company grows large, they're going to make a large amount of profit. That's going to incentivize other businesses to come in and compete with them. And as long as there's no state stopping them from competing, well, then they'll basically, overtake the market, and then there'll be multiple competing firms in that market.
Yeah.
Anything you guys want to say?
No, you nailed it.
No, yeah,
I
that's
guess
pretty
like
much
I would
it.
I would add real quick, like yeah, everything you said was pretty much correct. It's like people tend to seem to think like in like an Ancap society, you would have like these natural monopolies forming. But no, in reality, once you remove all the barriers to entry for competing for firms, you will see competitors arising. Even when you have these large firms, um, once they once when there are like inefficiencies in the market, you will see competitors begin to arise.
Yeah, there's only in a free market, there's very rare cases when you see monopolies, and that's generally in places where you have like maybe something like a small town where there's like 20, 30, 40 people, right? Or a very small amount of people. Then you will see maybe one company for this, one company for that. But as communities get bigger, and there's no interfering with the allowance for new companies or new firms to come in and compete, you will see multiple firms for each good and service competing with each other in the market, and you won't see these large mega corporations um, basically taking over. And also, for a lot of the statists who support, they say they're against monopolies, um, but then turn around and say they support something like the USPS, or nationalizing the healthcare industry, or nationalizing this industry or that industry, or sugar, or putting in things like that. Those are quite literally state controlled and run monopolies. They're basically too big to fail, because whenever they lose money, they have people whom they can steal from in order to make up from that money. They can rob people through taxpayers in order to pay for that money. If you look at the trains, a lot of the trains in the United States or in New York City, they're federally owned. They're owned by the government or the state, right? And they lose money. Whenever they lose money, we have to basically pick up the downside. Us taxpayers have to pick up the downside. But whenever you have a private company who loses money, the people who have to pick up the downside are the people who own the business. And that's a big major difference between monopolized private ownership situations versus just a normal private company.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, the answer is North Korea.
What the hell is a North Korea? Can we sell that?
No. It's a statist land, not privately owned by anyone. If we could take control of that land, we would have total monopoly of the entire market for 23 million people. Now, the
Yo,
North
you
Korean
think McDonald's
statists
Corp
still
can
have their
destroy
arsenal
North Korea?
pointed towards Seoul.
I mean, do they have nukes?
No diff.
Maybe.
McDonald's wins no diff, bro. I'm telling you.
I don't see how this McDonald's and this corporation is not any different from the state that we already currently living in right now.
Mm.
I think like the whole argument that they're basically making is that if we allow private companies to take over defense and have arms and weapons and things like that to protect people, that they're just going to become a government, but the issue or a state. But the issue is that private companies are much less likely to do stuff like that because they don't have a taxpayer group to force to pay into their system. I mean, if they're going out, let's say if McDonald's decided to grab a bunch of men and go take over North Korea, as they said in this video, they would have to pay for all the manpower, the weapons, the armors, the tanks, the lives, then how are they going to pay for that? Well, they're going to have to increase the subscriptions of all the people who are paying into that service. So, and as long as there's competition in the market for private security, people could just move away, not pay for that one, and go for a more cheaper one that's not going into a stupid war, right? So
Mhm.
companies that go to war, private companies that go to war, are going to have to pay for that war by raising the prices of their goods. And then whenever people see that there's a raise in the price of their goods, and there's competitions that's selling it at a lower price while maintaining the same quality, people will move to the company that that charges less. And this is again what's going to incentivize private companies not to do things like this. But if you're under a status system where you have a government that can come in and quite literally force you to pay into its system, there's no real there's not a real big downside to taking over another country because they could just take your money regardless of whether you like it or not. And because they control the bank, they can inflate your money. Even if you don't give it to them, they can inflate your money and then steal it that way. With the Federal Reserve or something like that. So yeah, a state is definitely going to be more likely to take over another country than, say, a McDonald's is.
But it would be funny if McDonald's did.
Take over North Korea.
Would
Hell
it be
yeah.
an
It would be pretty
aggression of
funny.
McDonald's to do that, or
Huh?
like would we can like 'cause I'm trying to think about it, like would it be an aggressive act if like whatever corporation, in this case McDonald's, like were to overtake some state, like would they be aggressing?
Yeah, I think it would.
It
I see
depends
what you're
on how they
saying
do it,
though,
I guess.
because
I
what
mean,
you're
'cause,
saying
like,
is like it's an aggressive state. So can someone aggress on an aggressive actor? And I think like yes, if they're not
Yeah.
aggressing against you, and you're not acting in someone else's defense, unless the motive of McDonald's is to actually like rescue the people from enslavement, then it would be a non-aggressive act. But if they're just doing it out of their own profit motive, then technically it would be
But for me,
aggressive
it seems like in this hypothetical, they're just going in to take it over, right? So
Yeah.
to monopolize
they're
it.
not
Yeah.
liberators.
And also like if they were to I mean, because often in wars of any sort, you see like or like imperialist ventures, which I guess this would kind of be. You see like there's probably going to be civilian casualties, and that's obviously aggressive.
All right, let's continue.
And we have McDonald's private properties in Seoul. So we'll have to take that out first. For that, I suggest deploying the Mick Air Force in the Sea of Japan and take care of it with a McNuclear airstrike.
But the McNuclear program is for recreational purposes only.
We don't have to make all our nukes ourselves. We can buy them, like normal people do. We can probably get one for like 65 bitcoins at the Walmart.
True.
Anyway, once that's
That's just definitely not going to happen.
I like how everything's in Bitcoin too, as if people wouldn't use other currencies or something.
Bro, look at that
I mean,
map. Ching ching chong.
Yeah, so I just want to explain real quick the whole like arguments for like, oh, you could just buy a nuke in Ancapistan. The problem is your average company is not going to just be able to just sell a nuke or buy a nuke because the people who are creating nukes are buying nukes are not just going to be your average person. They're probably going to be like defense agencies or private military agencies or things like that. And they're not just going to sell it to your average person to fuck around with, because the whole idea of a private security agency is to protect the people who are under them, and they would only use something like that against an invading force or something like that. And I would actually go a step further and argue that private companies would be less incentivized than a state to use these nuclear weapons, because they would be held responsible for each individual person that they kill. So they're going to want to use more like strategic strike, stuff like that. Maybe like a laser from the sky that'll just go like that and just take somebody out, as opposed to, blowing a whole bunch of people up and not really caring about the casualties. When you're under a state, the state can just go ahead and blow up a whole bunch of people because they don't have to pay for the repercussions of the things that they're doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would think whatever firms maybe, or just individuals that maybe, or groups, whatever, whoever is producing like nuclear bombs, I would think they'd be extremely selective if they choose, and who they choose to sell their nukes to, if anyone at all. Because if they just sell it to some company or some person that they have reason to believe like is just gonna do something like very rash and dangerous with the bombs, they would not want to deal with all the casualties that would all the deaths that would cause.
Yeah, because they'd be held. They would be. Yeah.
Their business would be like, their reputation would be fucked, and they'd be probably held
If a
liable.
private security agency sold a nuke to a person and then that person then used a nuke to blow somebody up, that private security agency's reputation would go down the toilet.
Yeah, all of them
Yeah.
would. The buyers and the sellers, and then they would lose all their business. So they would have to be super fucking hyper selective about who they sell nukes to.
They would be
Yeah,
a
they
bunch
probably
of
like
idiots.
maybe go to prison or something. I don't know. Something would happen to them.
Also, the government isn't very good at protecting its nukes neither. For instance, there's many times where the governments have lost their nukes. So, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
There's
Like
been a time when Biden
accidentally?
had access to our
Yes,
nukes.
accidentally and
Let
shit.
that sink in.
What the fuck?
Including the United States too.
I've not heard of that. Huh, okay.
Done. Then we can have an EMP deal with the nuclear facilities, and then send the McMarines in to secure the rest of the territory.
But won't the nuke cause some damage?
Yeah, but even if it kills like 1 million people, it's still 22 million people we get a monopoly on. We can even cancel out some of the loss by selling gas masks.
I just have one problem. What about the non-aggression?
Yeah, it's just gonna be. That's just not how that works, bro. It's gonna be a lot more expensive to kill a lot of people than the amount of money you're gonna make from selling gas masks. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
I just have one problem. What about the non-aggression principle?
I'm glad you asked. See, in 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea, where there are now McDonald's private properties. So
Oh my
they technically
God.
broke the NAP first.
Okay, that's not how that works.
No, that's
so
not how
funny.
that works. Okay. So you can't
You
just.
can't. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that you can't just fucking blame a whole country because of the actions of some people in the state. Okay. So if you can't just invade a whole country because of you can't just invade a whole country because of the actions of the people within the state. You can take action against the people who were in the state and maybe have did that and who were alive back then, but yeah, you can't just invade a whole country. That's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, like you can't just kill a bunch of civilians for what the government did like however many years ago.
Yeah.
The fuck?
That's definitely against the
All these
NAP.
data direction.
Holy shit, you know what that reminds me of? Israel versus Palestine.
Israel versus Palestine. Oh God. I
Look
don't
at the
even wanna get into that.
similarities.
Private property.
Yeah, because one is taking cover of the other one.
Yeah.
The entire world would be Israel versus Palestine.
North Korea invaded South Korea, where there are now McDonald's private properties. So they technically broke the NAP first.
My God, TK48, you're one hell of a genius.
Not really.
Hey, MP77, have you seen that new thing from NSA Corp? If you upgrade to Gold subscription, they can tell you if someone's radio transmissions are interfering with your private property.
Let's try it now, huh?
What the?
Yeah, again, I don't think radio waves can violate your rights unless you can show some, again, earlier, like I said earlier, some sort of measurable damage done to you or your person or your property.
Yeah.
Sir, it looks like someone here is transmitting information to Burger King.
Oh yeah, this turns into like the Matrix. Fucking based, bro.
Yeah, they just have guns just right out their
I
ass.
love it, dude.
Why would he just bring a handgun?
Looks like you've got
Yeah.
You Augusto? A spy for Burger King. The name is a reference to statism. And you are my daughter's enemy.
Nothing personal, Ronald.
I'll send your family to the McGulag for 7,000 years.
The Korean monopoly, you see. It belongs to Burger King.
Off my cold dead hands.
I love how they're above the clouds.
Oh, that.
Hope you
Okay,
made
that's
it.
what, I was like, what the fuck? Where are they? Oh shit.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
McDonald's, fuck you, McDonald's. Ah!
I'll get you, Burger King.
Bro, what? Why weren't the anti-air fucking missiles doing anything? Like, what the hell?